Kev, damaged goods. So you said the 7 types of queens, kings desire. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay. I'm damaged goods, she's damaged goods. What I desire is non-damaged goods. How do I do it?
Well, first of all, every woman is a queen. Every woman, I don't care what color you are. It's a matter of knowing what type of queen you are so that you can attract the right type of man. Are you a spiritual queen? Are you a warrior queen? Are you a natural queen? Are you a cooking queen? So on and so forth.
A cooking queen?
Yes, yes.
Do you know what?
My
I was
favorite
looking
one.
through the list and I did stop. I ain't gonna lie, I stopped on that one. I didn't define it, just so people get when you're talking about that. Just go through what those things actually mean. What is a cooking queen?
The cooking queen is a woman that loves to cook and loves to serve her family and her community. And
sign me up.
Right. Not necessarily you have to be a slave or anything like that, but a woman, when she cooks, she's able to put her love energy into the food, feed the family, sit on the table, and pray. Yeah. That's one of the things that I don't see anymore. I grew up with a mom, with a cooking queen that, you know, cooked, and we sat down on the table and fellowship and get to know what's going on in each other's world. Yes. And before you even eat, you pray.
Yes.
You know, so that's not going on anymore. Yes. So some of the traditional things, you need to get back to them in order to move forward and build healthier families. That's the main basis of my book, to build stronger relationships so we could build stronger homes, stronger families, stronger neighborhoods, communities, cities, states, nations, so on and so forth.
Because some of the research we was getting into, and I think it came when we looked at the dates, because we thought that marriage was going to be messed up through slavery, but when we actually looked at it, marriage was quite strong during slavery. Marriage was strong after slavery. And then wait there, so the numbers only went off in the 60s. But that's like our strongest time. It's like we're coming up at that point.
I think at that point we knew that we had an enemy and that we were against it. Whereas I think as you know, you get more.
So there was unity and love in the home, and
because that's all we had was one another. And then when the doors kind of opened up somewhat, then it's like, well, I got options now, innit?
Well, to be honest, I don't even know if it's options. It's like you favour some, you favour one over the other, and start the jealousy or envy situation, and someone thinks they're better than someone else. But no, sorry, go ahead, David.
On the point the brother made about the sister in terms of the cooking, that's key. It reminds me of the founder of the Nation of Islam when he came to America, and when he was invited into the homes, he would go to the medicine cabinet and then look in there and say, okay, take out the medicine, take out all that, and then go into the kitchen and say, that's the medicine cabinet. Your food, your cooking is your health.
And it's the basis of nation building is strong families. So once we destroyed the strong families, it's gone. So we got to a point where we think the basis of nation building is money. But we have people with money, male and female, and it hasn't changed our condition. But what we haven't had is like these real strong family values that you were speaking of coming back. So get into it. What's in the way? What's been hindering us? Because what you're speaking about, I've been hearing about as long as I've been in the nation and before. But what's hindering us from taking on these values? What's hindering us from getting back to these realities? So as you've got it, you've studied it, you bathe in it, you get out, you share it with people. What's actually hindering us from making these changes and developing? I'll go with you, Ken.
Excuses. I mean, ladies today, as I mentioned earlier, they're very successful. So they blame it on their schedules, not being able to have time or find a time. But they have time to be on social media all day, have time to take selfies, have time to go clubbing and traveling. If there's a will, there's a way. Now, in the States, I'm not sure how it is in the UK. If you talk to a sister and ask her if she cooked, or you even hint that you expect her to cook, you might get a shoe thrown at you.
No, it's the same. It's the same.
And that's crazy. But you can find the time. Just prepare the food the night before, or get the ingredients ready, and then
I know a whole heap of sisters who can't cook or won't cook. You know that show, Can't Cook, Won't Cook. But most of the brothers I know, like, pride themselves on get around the kitchen. Our cameraman is out there growing and cooking his own pumpkins and them things. It's like, we're trying to get back. But in terms of why it's like that, what is it we as men are not providing that would give them the space to do it? Because from my vantage point, I've wrestled with this for a bit. But I felt, actually, you know what? I think this is your subject, because you deal with like how this stuff works in the universe.
Okay.
And as men, we must be doing something wrong, because truth be told, the Caucasian men who run the establishment have no problem getting buy-in and obedience from our women. They have no problem, but they provide for them. Right. So when they need something, they know they can go. For you guys, you'd say uptown or downtown, but for us, they go to the council and they get what they need. Okay, if they aren't going to the council, they can go, whether they go to the council for a job or benefits, or whether they go corporate, whether they go to the education system, they can get what they need. What are we as men not doing that would allow us to get the kind of buy-in our enemies get?
Yeah, you know, that's really a good question. It's so deep on so many levels.
All right, you got time,
So I don't like to point the finger at what are men not doing and what are women not doing, because all that does is cause divisiveness amongst our community. By pointing the finger at each other, like that old adage is, if you point one finger at me, you're pointing four back at yourself.
Right.
So my thing is holding yourself accountable, male or female, to just being a good person. Just being a good person, putting others ahead of yourself. This is what we call the chakra. If you deal with the chakra system, the first level of higher consciousness starts in the heart. And all the chakra is a center of energy from which you base how you define yourself and the reality around you. So if we all just put each other ahead of ourselves, if we, again, suppress the ego, which is very hard because we live in a society that feeds the ego constantly without our permission, whether that be...
feeds the ego without your permission.
Correct.
Wow.
So in the States, for black women, all the roles that you see on television and entertainment are Atlanta Housewives. I don't know if y'all familiar with that.
I know. Yeah, we get everything. Yeah. We get it out here.
So these women are beautiful, immaculate on the outside, but really ugly, really nasty, really masculine, in your face.
Some of them be like that on the outside too. Don't play.
Exactly. So our young girls are looking at these women as role models, and it's by design. They're looking at the Nicki Minaj, where your sexuality, as Kevin was saying, is now your power. Yeah. It's your power. Right, Amber Rose and sisters of that nature, and then you get into the list goes on and on. So we are being conditioned for women to be masculine, and then at the same time for the brothers to be feminine.
Yes.
So when you have those two options working, and also feeding the lower part of you, right, the beast that's inside of you, you get what you have in the black community, and everybody wondering what's wrong with the men, what's wrong with the woman, but not really looking at the state of the environment that we are being conditioned to be under.
No, I catch that, but I think you kind of, like, you answered it, but you kind of went left with me, because, like, I get that.
Yeah.
But then, like, to me, when I've agonized over it, because it's something that whenever we get into, generally there's an argument. I have a good friend of mine, Oneness, the poet, and she had a party at her house, and there's loads of sisters and loads of brothers, and different conscious expression is all in the room, and like, to get that synergy kind of thing where male and female, and like, these are intellectuals, I would call them, in the room, but we couldn't get the synergy. And I was, when I thought about it, my mindset was like, well, okay, like, rather than, like you said, point the finger at self. So if I'm a man, so I'm looking at self. What is it that we, even like we're damaged goods, but what have we got to do? Because I just had that feeling like if we came together as men and built an environment and put them in it, or shared that environment with them, then we have a space to go, okay, well, you haven't got to worry about, you know, you're standing in this space or that space. You haven't got to worry about finishing a day's work in corporate UK or America and then come home to Atlanta Housewives, because we have another reality that makes more sense. Because where you guys was yesterday is a social space. But in that social space that has been created by yourselves and our sister, the obviously the mindset's different, no?
Exactly.
Right, so we have to create new spaces, and I'm not sure if we can leave that to the sisters, and that's why I said with you, because I know you was talking about how the universe is created. You talked about positive and negative all throughout the universe and how
Right.
it works to create new realities.
Yes.
So put that into our situation.
Okay, let me see how I could rephrase this. So in nature, right, and when we talk about nature, our ancestors, there was no stipulation between nature and God. God was nature, nature was God. So to get closer to God, it wasn't about praying, it wasn't about going to church, it wasn't about going to the mosque. It was about understanding the laws that govern nature, and they called universal principles or laws.
Yeah.
One of those principles, and that I believe is the only principle, is the law of gender. And that means that everything in nature, all energy is either masculine or feminine.
Like positive or negative, right?
Positive or negative, higher or lower, black or white.
Yeah. The yin and the yang.
The yin and the yang.
Yeah.
Right, right. So when we talk about, well, the black woman is God or the black man is God, they are both not true. The black man and black woman in harmony and balance is God. You need both.
Yeah.
You need both. And once we understand that, now we can appreciate each other when we come together as family and harmony and relationship. So what is masculinity? All masculinity is, when you just leave it out and you just look at it under a microscope, is giving out energy. It's positive. Positive just means that it sits still in order to give out the most amount of energy, as opposed to feminine energy is negative. And I know a lot of sisters get upset because why feminine got to be negative? Why I got to be negative?
Make a connotation that it's
right,
negative, but
right.
it's not.
And that's what's been we are taught, because we are taught to hate the feminine principle. All negative means is to have no gates, to be infinite, to have no boundaries, right? So when we give our feminine energy, our woman, our energy, we give her our best, she creates our reality according to the level of consciousness that we are on. So that's why she has no gates, because she can create this energy. But she needs the man in order to give her that energy so that she can reflect it back to them. So if we can all learn to look at nature in those terms, and we're talking about from the smallest subatomic particle to the biggest cosmic universe, they all abide by this law of gender, and that's what my book hits. So once we know how the law of gender works, once we know what masculine looks like and feminine looks like, we can hold each other accountable to the way God has presented us to be in our roles in this society. If we can do that as a basis for the foundation, I think we're going to be halfway there.
Yeah, I love that. So that's, by the way, that's what I got from the book. See that piece there? That's why I was kind of pushing you that direction, because that's the piece that I got from the book. And to me, that's what I'm taking away. I haven't finished it, but that's what I've taken away from the book, was that, in terms of just the way that it's scientific in more that it's not just your personal feeling one to another. There's actually a universal law here.
Exactly.
And all this other stuff that people are bombarding you with is actually taking you away from your true nature, your true universal understanding.
Definitely.
And in that is success. Now, for me, doesn't matter who we are, Muslims, Christians, Pan-African, it makes no difference. A universal law is a universal law, and we can work and build from that.